The stars were silent when it happened. One moment, Earth was shining, full of cities and laughter. The next, the sky burned. No one on the planet had time to scream before the enemy's firestorm tore through oceans, mountains, and continents. It was not war. It was an execution. The attackers were cold, efficient, and merciless. They didn't send warnings. They didn't ask for surrender. They came to erase Earth, and they did it with one strike. The home of humanity was gone, reduced to ashes floating in space. But not every human had been on Earth when it died. Some lived in colonies, some served in fleets far away, and some drifted between stars in old freighters. They watched the destruction from distant scanners, unable to believe what they saw. Earth, their mother world, had been wiped out. The heart of humanity had been stabbed and destroyed. At first, there was only silence. No one knew who the enemy was. The weapons that burned Earth were unknown to human eyes. The ships moved like shadows, and when they were done, they disappeared without leaving wreckage behind. The survivors sent desperate messages across the void. Who did this? Who destroyed our world? The answer came too late. The enemy revealed themselves in a cold broadcast, sent across every known frequency. Their voices were calm, without anger, without pity. The human species has been judged, they said. Your aggression, your wars, your refusal to kneel before order made you a threat. For the good of the galaxy, Earth is erased. Do not resist. Do not rebuild. Your time is over. Those words lit a fire in every human heart. Fear twisted into rage. Grief turned into steel. Humanity had been scattered, but they were not broken. They had lost their home, but not their spirit. And they swore, in that moment, that revenge would come. Hidden in deep space, aboard stations no alien knew about, old fleets began to stir. Ships that were thought abandoned came back online. War factories that had been sleeping for decades roared awake. Humanity had not wanted war, but war had been forced on them. The galaxy believed humans would fade away, too weak to recover from such a loss. But they were wrong. Humans were deathworlders, born from a planet of storms, predators, and fire. They had been shaped by hardship since the beginning of time. To erase Earth was to erase their heart, but it also unleashed their fury. The first whispers of revenge spread like wildfire. Soldiers who had no world left to defend became mercenaries of vengeance. Colonies that once argued over resources now stood united. Old admirals who had retired to quiet moons returned to command, their voices filled with grim determination. One ship in particular carried the weight of humanity's wrath. It was called the Revenant. A warship unlike any other, hidden for years in the dark, waiting for a day when it might be needed again. It was huge, armored with layers of black steel, armed with weapons that had never been tested in open war. Now it was awakened, its engines roaring with hate. Inside the Revenant, Captain Elias Kane stood before his crew. His face was scarred, his eyes sharp with fury. "They think they killed us," he said, his voice echoing through the ship's halls. "They think humanity is gone. But they forgot one thing. We don't forgive. We don't forget. And we don't die quietly." The crew cheered, not with joy but with the hunger of predators. Every man and woman aboard had lost someone when Earth burned. They had nothing left but revenge, and that was enough to drive them into battle against any enemy, no matter how powerful. Somewhere in the galaxy, the enemy celebrated their victory. They thought the war was over before it had begun. They thought humans would scatter and vanish. But soon, their fleets would learn the truth. Earth's fall was not the end. It was the beginning of something far worse. For the humans had chosen their path. They would strike back with no mercy. They would show the galaxy what it meant to erase a death world. And when they came, they would not come with peace, or with words. They would come with fire. The stars themselves seemed to hold their breath as the Revenant prepared to leave dock. The engines flared like the wrath of a dying sun. The galaxy did not yet know it, but the countdown to humanity's revenge had already begun. And when that vengeance arrived, Nothing would survive its fury. The warship Revenant slid out of the shadows of its hidden dock. Its engines were silent, but its presence filled the void like a predator stalking prey. The ship was old, but it had been built for one purpose only: to end wars, not survive them. And now it was awake again, carrying the fury of a broken people. Captain Elias Kane stood on the command deck, staring at the endless stars. His crew worked around him, faces pale with focus. Every one of them had lost someone on Earth, families turned to ash, homes erased in fire. Their grief was fuel, and Kane knew how to aim it. "Status?" Kane asked. "Shields full, weapons charged." "Stealth systems active," replied Commander Vera, his second in command. She was calm, but her hands were tight fists behind her back. Their first mission was not to fight. It was to hunt. Somewhere out there, the enemy who had destroyed Earth was moving freely, unchallenged, certain of their victory. The galaxy had not lifted a hand to stop them. No one came to help the humans. And that was fine. Humanity would help itself. The first clue came from a shattered listening post orbiting a dead moon. Its logs were broken, but the fragments told a story. Alien warships had passed through here after Earth's destruction, leaving trails of exotic radiation. Kane studied the data and felt a chill. "They didn't run far," Kane muttered. "They're bold. Too bold." "Arrogance," Vera said. "They think we're finished. They'll learn otherwise." Kane's voice was low, like a blade sliding from its sheath. The Revenant followed the trail, jumping through silent systems, drifting through asteroid belts. The crew spoke little. They all knew what was coming. Revenge was not a thing to be rushed. It was a hunt, patient and merciless. Days later, they found them. A convoy of alien warships cruised near a binary star, their black hulls cutting through the light like shadows. They were massive, their design strange and cruel, weapons humming with power no human had ever seen. These were the same kind of ships that had burned Earth. The destroyers of their home. The crew of Revenant watched in silence. Rage filled the air like smoke. "Captain," Vera said quietly. "Orders." For a long moment, Kane said nothing. Then he turned to his crew. "We don't strike yet. We learn. We watch. We want them to believe we are still dead. When we hit them, it must be like lightning. No warning. No mercy." So the humans watched. Hidden by stealth fields, Revenant shadowed the convoy, recording every move, every signal, every weakness. Kane studied their formations, their patterns. He saw the pride in their movements. They believed they were untouchable. But pride blinds. And blind enemies die. Finally, the order came. "Bring us closer," Kane said. The ship moved silently through the void, its weapons hot, its crew waiting. Heartbeats thundered in every chest. "Target their rear vessel," Kane said. "Make it vanish before the others know what's happening." A tense silence filled the deck. Then Kane raised his hand. "Fire." The void lit up. A lance of energy roared from Revenant's forward cannon, a weapon designed in secret human labs, never before unleashed. It struck the alien ship with the force of a dying sun. Shields cracked, metal melted, and in seconds the warship was nothing but burning fragments drifting into the stars. The convoy panicked. Signals screamed across their comms. Engines flared. They searched desperately for the attacker. But there was nothing to see. The humans were ghosts. "Target the next," Kane ordered. Again, Revenant fired. Another enemy ship tore apart, exploding in silence. The aliens tried to regroup, but their lines shattered. Their pride turned to fear as one by one, their mighty vessels were erased by a single human warship. On the command deck, the crew's grief twisted into grim satisfaction. Each blast was a promise kept. Each explosion was a whisper of Earth's revenge. Finally, only one alien ship remained. It tried to flee, its engines screaming as it jumped toward safety. "Let it go," Kane said. The crew turned in shock. "Let it go." But Kane's eyes were cold. We need survivors. We need them to carry a message. And so the last ship escaped, limping and broken, to spread the first whispers of terror. Humanity was not gone. Humanity was coming. As silence returned to space, Kane spoke to his crew. His voice was low, steady, dangerous. They thought Earth's destruction ended the war. They were wrong. The war has only begun. And we will not stop until every one of them learns what it means to awaken the wrath of Deathworlders. The stars around them flickered with the glow of enemy wreckage. It was only the first strike, the first taste of revenge. The galaxy had no idea what was coming. But soon, it would. The lone alien ship fled through the stars, its hull torn and smoking. Inside, panic spread like wildfire. The crew shouted, their voices breaking, their instruments screaming with alarms. They had faced countless enemies before, but never this. Never a ghost. Never a monster that struck from the dark and vanished. Their leader, a high commander of the species called the Dra Thor, staggered across the deck. His armored hands slammed against the console. "Find them! Who dares strike us?" he roared. But there was nothing. No signal, no trace. Just wreckage drifting in silence. When the ship limped back to the nearest Dra Thor base, the report was delivered. For the first time in centuries, the Dra Thor Council listened in silence. They were conquerors of countless worlds. Their empire spread across half the galaxy. They had burned Earth because they believed humans were weak and dangerous at the same time, a contradiction they thought could be erased in one brutal strike. But now something had survived. The commander's voice trembled as he gave his final words. "They are not gone. Humans still fight." The chamber was silent. Then whispers began. "Impossible. Earth is destroyed." "Then what destroyed 3 of our warships?" No one answered. But the seed of fear had been planted. Far away, aboard the Revenant, Kane and his crew studied the battle logs. The surviving Dra Thor ship had carried the message, exactly as Kane intended. Now the galaxy would know. Humanity was not extinct. Humanity was hunting. "They'll send scouts after us," Commander Vera warned. "Good," Kane said. His eyes burned with cold fire. "Let them come. We want them afraid. Fear is the first step toward their collapse." The crew nodded. They had tasted revenge, but it was only a beginning. The Dra Thor empire was vast. One ship, no matter how powerful, could not destroy it alone. But Kane had a plan. "We spread the word," he said. "Every human colony, every hidden fleet, every survivor, we call them back. The Dra Thor think they destroyed humanity. We'll show them they only made us stronger." And so, the message went out across hidden channels. Across dead moons, lost stations, and drifting colonies, the call reached human survivors. "Earth is gone. The enemy thinks us broken. But we still fight. Join us. Join the Revenant. Revenge has begun." The response was swift. Old freighters turned into warships. Forgotten militias armed themselves. Isolated colonies swore allegiance to the cause. Humanity had been scattered, but now, like iron pulled by a magnet, they were gathering again. Meanwhile, in the Dra Thor Empire, fear was turning to fury. The loss of 3 warships was not just a wound, it was an insult. The High Council ordered fleets to sweep the sectors where the attack happened. They promised the destruction of every human ship still alive. But the humans were ready. The Revenant struck again. This time, not against warships, but against supply lines. Massive Dra Thor freighters vanished into fire. Fuel depots exploded in silence. Outposts went dark, their signals replaced with human warnings. For Earth. The Dra Thor fleets spread thin, chasing shadows. They found nothing but wreckage and silence. Each time they thought they cornered the humans, they were ambushed. Each time they thought victory was near, they lost more ships. Whispers spread across the galaxy. Merchants, mercenaries, and even rival empires began to murmur. the humans are back. The Deathworlders are not extinct. They are angry. Kane heard the whispers, and he welcomed them. Fear was spreading faster than any fleet could move. But one night, as the Revenant drifted in the dark of an asteroid field, Kane stood alone at the viewing window. The stars reflected in his scarred face. His voice was low, almost a whisper. "This isn't enough," he said. 3 ships. 10. 100. It doesn't matter. Earth is still gone. We haven't repaid the debt yet. Vera stood beside him, silent. She too had lost everything, her family, her home, her world. She understood. "We will," she said finally. "One day, we'll strike their heart. We'll burn their homeworld like they burned ours." Kane's jaw tightened. His eyes narrowed. "No," he said. "We won't burn it. We'll make them watch as everything they built crumbles. We'll take their empire apart piece by piece, until they beg for the fire." And as if the stars themselves were listening, the Revenant's engines came alive again, carrying humanity's fury deeper into Dra Thor space. The war for Earth's revenge had only just begun. The Dra Thor had finally lost their patience. The whispers of human survival had spread too far, and their empire was starting to look weak. The High Council demanded proof that humanity was truly dead. They wanted the Revenant destroyed, its wreckage paraded across the stars as a warning. So, they set a trap. They leaked information through captured channels, pretending to move a large weapons convoy. In reality, it was bait. Hidden around the route were war fleets, dozens of ships, waiting in silence. Their orders were simple. When the Revenant appeared, surround it, crush it, and erase every trace. But Kane was no fool. On the Revenant's command deck, Commander Vera frowned at the intercepted messages. "It feels too clean," she said. "Too obvious." Kane studied the star charts, his eyes narrowing. "Because it is," he said. "They're waiting for us." The crew shifted uneasily. If they avoided the trap, the Dra Thor would believe humans were cowards. If they took the bait, they risked annihilation. Kane's lips curled into a grim smile. "So we don't avoid it. We walk into it. But on our terms." The crew stared, unsure if he was serious. "We'll let them believe their trap worked," Kane continued. "But when they spring it, we'll already have cut the wires." And so, the Revenant moved toward the convoy route, silent and patient. Every system was ready, every gun primed. When the ship entered the sector, the trap snapped shut. Dra Thor warships decloaked from every angle. Cruisers, destroyers, carriers, even battleships. Dozens of them, their engines glowing, their weapons pointed straight at the human ship. Alarms filled the Revenant's command deck. The crew stared at the impossible sight. "They want us surrounded," Vera whispered. Kane's voice was steady. "Good. That saves us the trouble of chasing them." The Dra Thor commander's voice thundered over the comms. "Human vessel, surrender now. Your species is finished. You will not leave this place alive." Kane leaned forward, his voice cold as ice. "You erased our home. You think that means the fight is over. But you made one mistake." He paused, his words sharp enough to cut. "You left survivors." And with that, the Revenant struck. Hidden mines deployed earlier in the asteroid field suddenly came alive. Dozens of Dra Thor ships lit up as explosions tore through their formations. Shields collapsed, hulls cracked, and in seconds the perfect ambush became chaos. "Fire all batteries!" Kane roared. The Revenant's cannons unleashed hell. Beams of energy cut through enemy ships like knives through glass. Torpedoes streaked into the void, tearing carriers apart in brilliant firestorms. The Dra Thor fought back, their combined fire slamming into the human ship's shields. The Revenant shook under the assault, alarms screaming, but it did not fall. Its armor held, its engines burned bright, and its weapons kept singing their deadly song. On the alien side, panic spread. Their formation collapsed as one ship after another was ripped apart. Their perfect trap had turned into a slaughterhouse. "Target their flagship," Kane ordered. The crew obeyed. The Revenant's main cannon charged, glowing with deadly light. When it fired, the beam tore through the Dra Thor flagship, splitting it in half. The mighty ship exploded in silence, fragments scattering across the stars. The remaining Dra Thor ships tried to retreat, but Kane wasn't finished. "Pursue. Leave survivors, but only enough to spread the tail." The chase was short, brutal, and merciless. By the time silence returned, half the Dra Thor fleet was gone. The others fled, limping and broken, carrying the truth the Council had feared: the humans were not prey. They were predators. On the Revenant, the crew sat in silence, hearts pounding. They had walked into a trap meant to kill them, and turned it into a massacre. Commander Vera broke the silence. "They'll never underestimate us again." Kane's face was grim. "Good. Fear makes them weak. And weakness makes them ours." As the Revenant drifted through the burning wreckage, Kane looked out at the stars. His voice was low, but every crew member heard it. "This is only the beginning. For every city they burned, for every child they killed, we will give them fire 1,000 times over. Earth is gone, but its vengeance lives." And somewhere, in the vast dark of space, the Dra Thor Council received the first reports of the massacre. Their trap had failed. Their fleets had fallen. And for the first time in their long history, the conquerors of empires felt something they had never felt before: fear. The Dra Thor High Council sat in silence as the reports arrived. Entire fleets lost. Commanders dead. Their trap turned against them. For the first time, their empire looked fragile. "The humans are not broken," one counselor hissed. "They are dangerous. More dangerous than we thought." "They are only one ship," another argued, though his voice trembled. "One ship cannot destroy an empire." But in their hearts, they all knew it was not just one ship. The Revenant was a spark, and sparks could start fires too large to control. Desperate, the Dra Thor reached out to their allies, empires they had bullied, bribed, and threatened for centuries. They demanded fleets, soldiers, resources to crush the humans once and for all. But the answers they received were not what they expected. The Krell Dominion, a reptilian empire long forced into uneasy alliance, refused. "We remember Earth," they said. "Humans traded with us. Helped us when your fleets abandoned us. We will not fight them." The Zythan Guild, masters of trade and commerce, laughed. "The humans are bad for you, Dra Thor, but good for business." Already, their name spreads across the galaxy. Mercenaries line up to serve them. "You think we will risk our ships for your pride?" Even smaller powers, once silent under Dra Thor rule, began to whisper. The humans were not extinct. They were fighting back. And for the first time in centuries, someone was making the mighty Dra Thor bleed. Back aboard the Revenant, Kane received the news through secret channels. The galaxy was listening. Empires once too afraid to resist the Dra Thor were quietly cheering for the humans. Some sent supplies. Others offered intelligence. A few even sent soldiers, outcasts, mercenaries, warriors who wanted to fight for something greater. In the ship's hangar, new recruits arrived every week. They came from broken colonies, scattered outposts, even alien worlds where the Dra Thor had ruled with iron fists. And they all swore the same oath: for Earth. Commander Vera stood watching as crates of weapons were unloaded. "The galaxy is choosing sides," she said softly. Kane's reply was cold and certain. "Good. The Dra Thor wanted war. Now they will have one. Not just with us, but with every species they ever stepped on." But Kane also knew the danger. The Dra Thor would not sit idle. They had power, numbers, and fury. They would unleash everything they had to crush the humans before this rebellion grew too large. And soon, they did. Scouts reported a massive Dra Thor fleet moving toward the border of human-controlled space. Hundreds of ships. Battleships, carriers, entire armadas. It was more power than the Revenant could ever face alone. On the command deck, the crew listened as the report ended. The silence was heavy. "They mean to erase us completely," Vera said. Kane's face was calm, but his eyes burned. "Then we don't meet them head-on. We bleed them. We make every step cost them fleets. We turn their strength into their weakness." His plan was simple, brutal, and pure Deathworld thinking. Strike and vanish. Trap and destroy. Never give them the battle they wanted. And so the war changed. The Revenant became a phantom. It struck supply lines, tore apart communications, and crippled fuel depots. It left DRA Thor ships stranded, their crews begging for rescue. Every attack was followed by the same haunting message, broadcast on every channel. "For Earth." Soon, the words spread across the galaxy like fire. On alien worlds, painted on walls, whispered in shadows, carried on smuggler ships, "For Earth." The DRA Thor tried to answer with terror. They executed colonies suspected of helping humans. They destroyed neutral stations. They silenced anyone who dared speak the name of Earth. But their brutality only fueled the fire. More species turned against them, secretly aiding the humans. The galaxy was shifting. The DRA Thor were no longer feared, they were hated. One night, Kane stood at the viewport, staring at the distant stars. Behind him, Vera approached. "They are calling you something," she said. "The other species. The ones helping us." Kane didn't turn. "What?" "They call you the ghost of Earth. The man who carries his dead world's vengeance." For a moment, Kane said nothing. Then he whispered, "Good. Let them believe it. A ghost cannot be killed." And out there, in the vast dark of space, the DRA Thor gathered their greatest fleet, ready to strike with the fury of an empire. But what they didn't know was simple. The humans were waiting. And this time, they were not alone. The DRA Thor fleet moved like a storm through the stars. Hundreds of ships. Carriers the size of cities. Battleships bristling with weapons. Their engines burned bright, their banners shining. This was the greatest force the DRA Thor had ever gathered. They were not coming to fight. They were coming to erase. On the command deck of the flagship, the High Commander stood tall, his voice booming across every channel. "The humans are finished. Their ship will be ashes. Their name will be forgotten. Today, the galaxy will see the power of the DRA Thor." But far away, hidden in the dark, Kane listened. His crew gathered around the tactical displays aboard the Revenant. The enemy fleet was massive. Against it, one ship should mean nothing. But humanity had never fought fair. "Status of the network?" Kane asked. "Ready," Vera replied. Her eyes were sharp, her voice steady. "Every colony, every ally, every hidden station, they are waiting." The galaxy thought the humans were scattered, weak, alone. But in secret, Kane had built something the DRA Thor never expected, a web of resistance. Hidden bases in asteroid belts. Outposts in old wrecks. Mining stations turned into fortresses. And not just humans, aliens who hated the DRA Thor had joined too. When Kane gave the signal, they would all strike together. The trap was set. The DRA Thor fleet entered a sector they thought was empty. They did not see the mines buried in the asteroid field. They did not hear the silent guns hidden on dead moons. They did not sense the smaller warships waiting in the shadows, cloaked and patient. Kane stood at the viewing window. "They believe they're hunting us," he said. "But tonight, they are the prey." The moment the DRA Thor flagship reached the center of the sector, Kane gave the order. "Unleash it." The stars exploded. Asteroids lit up with hidden cannons, firing beams of energy into the DRA Thor lines. Mines detonated, tearing through battleships. Small, fast human and allied vessels burst from hiding, swarming the enemy like wolves around a cornered beast. The DRA Thor fleet roared in anger, weapons blazing. They fired in every direction, blasting asteroids apart, destroying dozens of ships. But for every human craft destroyed, 2 more appeared from the shadows. On the command deck of the Revenant, alarms screamed as the battle raged. But Kane was calm. His eyes tracked every move, every opening. "Target their carriers," he ordered. "Cut the head off the beast." The Revenant's cannons burned like suns. A DRA Thor carrier cracked open, spilling fire and broken ships into the void. Another followed, then another. Across the battlefield, Allied forces fought with desperation and fury. Krell warships slammed into DRA Thor cruisers, their reptilian commanders shouting vengeance. Zython strike craft darted through enemy fire, blasting engines apart. Even small human freighters, armed with scavenged weapons, rammed into DRA Thor destroyers, choosing fire over surrender. The DRA Thor flagship sent out a desperate broadcast: "It is not possible. They were supposed to be scattered. They were supposed to be broken." But no one listened. Every explosion, every destroyed DRA Thor ship carried the same message across the galaxy: humanity was not dead. Earth's revenge was alive. The battle stretched for hours. Space became a graveyard of fire and twisted metal. The DRA Thor had numbers, but their formations crumbled under the relentless strikes. Their pride turned into panic. Their mighty fleet, meant to erase the humans, was being shredded piece by piece. Inside the Revenant, Vera gripped the railing as the ship shook under enemy fire. "Shields at 30%. Kane's voice was steady, cold. "Hold the line. They will break before we do." And he was right. One by one, the DRA Thor ships began to retreat. First a cruiser. Then a destroyer. Then entire squadrons. The great fleet that was supposed to end the war fled into the dark, leaving behind burning wreckage and silence. When it was over, the stars were littered with broken ships. The humans and their allies stood battered, bloodied, but alive. On the command deck, the crew erupted in exhausted cheers. For the first time since Earth's destruction, they had not just survived, they had won a battle too large to hide. Kane looked out at the wreckage. His face was hard, his voice low. "This is the beginning of the end," he said. "The DRA Thor thought destroying Earth would kill us. Instead, they created something far worse. A war they cannot win." And somewhere, across the galaxy, billions watched the transmissions of the battle, smuggled through hidden networks. For the first time in history, the DRA Thor had been defeated in open war. The name of Earth rose again, carried by every whisper, every rebel, every broken world longing for freedom. The humans had turned their grief into fire. And that fire was spreading. The galaxy had never seen silence like this. For centuries, space was filled with the noise of wars, trade, and endless politics between alien empires. Now, after Earth's revenge, there was only fear. Every empire, every race, every ruler whispered the same question: who would be next? The humans had not spoken. They had not sent warnings. They had not asked for peace. They had only acted. Entire fleets that once mocked Earth were gone, reduced to ashes drifting in the void. Planets that laughed when humanity's home was erased now trembled at the thought of Earth's shadow falling upon them. But the truth was different. Humanity had never wanted endless war. They only wanted justice. Yet their justice had turned into something else, something the galaxy called ruthless revenge. On the bridge of the Titan-class vessel Nemesis, Admiral Kale stood silent, staring at the holographic map of destroyed enemy strongholds. Behind him, the crew whispered. Some were proud, some were afraid, and some were wondering if they had become the very monsters they once fought. "Admiral," one officer finally spoke, "the galaxy now fears us. Should we stop? Or should we keep going until no threat remains?" Kale's jaw tightened. He remembered Earth's burning skies, the cries of children who had no home to return to. He remembered the silence after the bombs fell, when the universe ignored humanity's screams. "No," Kale said at last, his voice cold. "We don't stop. Not until the galaxy understands." Not until they feel what we felt. The crew fell silent. None dared question him. Word spread across the stars. Systems surrendered before a single human ship even appeared. Colonies sent desperate messages begging for mercy. Old enemies tried to erase records of their part in humanity's destruction, as if hiding the past would protect them from Earth's vengeance. But humanity remembered everything. The next strike came without warning. The fleet descended upon the Zari Confederacy, one of the loudest voices that once called for Earth's extermination. Their fleets lined up bravely, thousands of ships, shields glowing bright. They lasted less than an hour. Human weapons tore through them like paper. The Nemesis moved like a predator among prey, each shot destroying entire formations. When it was over, space was filled with fire and wreckage. Not one Zari ship escaped. The survivors on their planets cried for peace. But Kale gave none. "Did you offer peace when Earth begged for it?" he said, his words broadcast across their systems. "You erased our home. Now we erase yours." The galaxy trembled. But in the middle of this fire and fury, something unexpected began to happen. Some alien races, those who had not taken part in Earth's destruction, stepped forward. They reached out, not with threats, but with pleas. "Humanity," one alien leader said, her voice shaking as her image appeared on human screens, "we did not erase your home. We did not raise weapons against you. Do not burn us with the guilty." Kale stared at her. His crew waited for his answer. For the first time, doubt flickered in his eyes. Were they becoming destroyers of the innocent? He walked to the viewing glass and stared at the stars. He thought of Earth, not the burning Earth, but the green forests, the blue oceans, the laughter of people who once believed in peace. He thought of what revenge had turned them into. Humanity stood at a crossroads. They could continue until the galaxy was drowned in fire, or they could stop, holding the universe in fear, but choosing not to destroy it completely. "Admiral," the officer asked softly. Kale finally spoke. His voice carried across the fleet. "We are not like them. We will not become them. But let the galaxy remember this: Earth does not forgive. Earth does not forget. If they ever rise against us again, we will return, and there will be nothing left." The fleet obeyed. The attacks slowed. Humanity pulled back, leaving behind ruins, ashes, and a galaxy that would never again see humans as weak. From that day, Earth became more than just a planet. It became a legend, a shadow that haunted every empire. Children across alien worlds grew up hearing the same warning whispered at night. "Do not cross the humans, for they can lose everything, and still rise to burn the stars." And in the silence of space, the Nemesis drifted onward, carrying the weight of vengeance and the unbroken spirit of a people who had lost their home, yet refused to ever be erased again. Humanity had changed the galaxy forever, and the galaxy would never forget.